morning, and it's Lilia and Jonathan here from the Health Hub.
Fantastic. Lovely to be with you, Lilia.
And today we're here to talk to you about oxygen and the types of oxygen that are available here at the Health Hub and why you would want to use them, how long it takes, all the questions hopefully answered in this video. So, Jonathan, you've two different kinds of oxygen here.
Absolutely. So we've got hyperbaric oxygen, which a lot of people are very familiar with. They relate to diving chambers and people recovering from the bends, and also people who go to regular oxygen hyperbaric therapy with for MS and things like that. Oxygen is so healing. It will help with people who've had neural problems, people who've had concussion, and so on and so forth. So it's a very powerful thing. So that's what most people are familiar with, the hyperbaric, which is basically breathing air and or oxygen under pressure. So the alternative is to breathe pure oxygen while you're exercising on some simple apparatus like a treadmill or a bike, and you have a 5-minute warm-up, and then you put on a mask where you do actually breathe pure oxygen. So the two things are both connected with getting oxygen into the system, but they approach it in a different way.
So well, let's start off with one is you sit in it, so it's for people that are very unable to do a lot of movement, but it takes 90 minutes.
Yes.
And then the other one is what we call the EWOT,
yes,
which is on a treadmill or a bike, which
yes,
you're both through there. And then once you get the pulse rate up to a certain, over 100, you put the oxygen mask on, and then you breathe in at 90 for 5% oxygen.
And that's a very, very big, important difference, because when you're in a single usage chamber breathing under pressure, you're not moving. So you can't breathe pure oxygen. But when you're on an exercise machine, just going at your own pace, not anything athletic, you are making carbon dioxide, and that's a very important part of the whole process.
Yeah, and let's just touch on the treadmill, because as we talked about before, the word treadmill can instill fear in people, and it's not about that. You can walk very, very slowly, even if you've got pain in your joints, etc. It's simply to get your pulse rate up enough so that you can absorb this oxygen.
Yep.
So and it takes a lot less time, a third of the time from the hyperbaric. So when you because a lot of people haven't heard about the EWOT. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
The hyperbaric, a lot of people, we had a hyperbaric treatment centre in Gilthead, which is no longer, because of the cost of servicing, etc.
Yes.
But the one that seems to me to be as good an option if you're mobile, if not better, less time, less money. Explain the difference for people that don't understand.
Sure. Well, you've already mentioned the fact that if you have any mobility issues, so if you can't walk or you can't pedal, then probably it's an easier solution to come to the hyperbaric, where you're sitting in a soft shell chamber. We only go up to 1.3 atmospheres, but you're sitting there, and it's a single usage chamber. It's a lot less expensive than hard wall chambers, and we only go up to 1.3 atmospheres, whereas hard wall chambers often go up to 2 or even more than that. But 1.3 atmospheres gives you like 95% of all the benefit that you want, and it's very, very safe, because it's a very you talk about pressure in terms of a dive. So it's not a deep dive like the high pressure chambers, and because you're on your own, you're not likely to be disturbed by someone else in the chamber who wants to get out of some whatever reason. They've had enough, So it's quite useful that way, but it does take actually an hour and a half. So it's actually almost 6 times longer than with EWOT, which is only 20 minutes. So you're sitting in the chamber, and you have the chamber is pressurized with outside air. So that's the big picture. Even breathing outside air at pressure, which is a benefit, which is why athletes train up at 10,000 feet Mexico City, and then they come and strut their stuff at sea level. And then while you're in the chamber, you also have a small mask, and that has got pure oxygen flowing into it, but it also has gussets at the side, which let ambient air in as well. So you are effectively breathing enhanced oxygen. We can't exactly put a number on it, but somewhere between 40 and 60%, which the body can tolerate, because you wouldn't normally breathe pure oxygen.
Yeah.
When you're on the exercise, you're making the carbon dioxide,
Yeah.
and then the brain balances it all out. And the brain is doing that all the time when we're just not breathing anything or not exercising. It's always balancing out, and it does that by dilating or constricting the blood vessels.
Yeah, because it's all about the flow, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about your own heart experience and how you manage.
Yeah, so I'd had a heart attack. I'd been to rehab at the local hospital, the REH. I'd been a bit skeptical that all these exercises that we did, all very professional, very well attended and closely monitored, but I had read about oxygen, exercise with oxygen. I'd read about that, and so that's when I got my own setup. I imported it from a company in Colorado, and got it set up. And the first time I used it, I felt like I had a spring clean. It was extraordinary. I couldn't put a number on it, but I felt like I was a couple of years younger. And after I'd had a couple of sessions, my sleep pattern got very much more relaxed. My resting pulse rate came down. My breathing suddenly felt like I could get full lungs worth of lovely, clear, clean air. It was a wonderful feeling. And I went on, and various people who were friends and things, I offered it to other people that I knew had some health issues, and I was totally amazed. Though, the first time I had somebody who had a serious heart condition and had very bad chest pain, angina, from walking along, just even in a flat pavement, and operation was out of the question. So we started to warm up, and in his case, it was on a rowing machine. And after 2.5 minutes, we were supposed to do 5 minutes. He said, "Look, I can't go on." So I said, "Well, let's put the oxygen on." And he then went for 15 minutes with no pain. And he got off this rowing machine. He said, I've never exercised like that for 3 years. And his complexion had pinked up. It was so exciting. And after 3 sessions, he was a changed man, and he'd stopped hugging the radiators because he's always been cold. And his energy levels were up. He was going for a sleep in the middle of the afternoon because he was so tired, had no nightlife. And he really effectively, it's no understatement to say, got his life back.
Wow.
And,
yeah. And I think what you hit on there, which is my passion, of course, is your confidence and letting go of the fear
Yes.
of the body, because
Yes.
that's what we find so much with people are terrified of their own bodies.
Yes.
And you can't sort of separate the biological, physiological, psychological
Yeah.
side of it, where if you've had a heart attack, which can be, I'm assuming, very scary, can actually stop you doing the things that maybe would help you.
Absolutely. And you are so right. So one of the things it gives you is confidence that hey, I've just gone for 15 minutes. I feel great. I feel lifted up. I've got all the energy. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't painful. And you suddenly realize your heart's there for you. So in my case, I'm talking about the heart. But people, as you say, are worried about symptoms in their body, and oxygen just makes everything to do with exercise so much easier.
Absolutely. And my big thing is letting go of fear of the body. So obviously heart attacks, that was your personal experience. That's why you've created this incredible space. But there's lots of other dis-ease that can be benefited by oxygen.
Oxygen.
So tell us who else is coming here and benefiting from oxygen.
So, okay, so very soon after we opened the hub, we realized that, for example, COPD is a common and chronic situation, difficulty with breathing. And interestingly, it's a contraindication to put someone with COPD in a pressurized environment.
Yes.
Because counterintuitively, oxygen is a vasoconstrictor, and usefully, carbon dioxide, the demon that in the world, is absolutely marvelous because it's a vasodilator. So when you're sitting on a chair, you're not making carbon dioxide, and that's why you wouldn't breathe pure oxygen. So when you've got this little mask on in the soft wall chamber, which we have, which is semi-portable, and it's a fraction of the cost, not to mention that, and takes up less space than a hard-walled unit and less technical support. So when you're sitting in there, you're effectively breathing oxygen at some reduced level. You've got a mask, it's got gussets at the side, it's letting the ambient air in. So you're probably breathing oxygen somewhere between 40 and 55%. So, and the body can tolerate that for an hour and a half, because you just wouldn't breathe pure oxygen. You wouldn't do that. When you're exercising, everything changes.
Yes.
So there's the confidence factor which you mentioned. We found with our cancer support program, cancers and tumors do not like oxygen-rich environments. So and oxygen in solution is alkaline. So that's very important because cancers create a lot of acidic environment around them. So this eventually pervades the body and takes the oxygen-rich environment closer and closer to sites that need to heal, basically.
Yeah, so and I mean, you know, I always look at everything, it's just like it's that we're just trying to get the immune system, give it enough power to do what it will always do. And obviously oxygen can be a huge, simple and not very expensive way to do that. So in terms of time, you have an ability, you have the soft shell or the EWOT. And again, with the EWOT, it's 20 minutes. That's one of the things I think that's really important because it comes down to financial cost and time. So the EWOT really is it fairly new? Because I know that some surgeons have been recommending people come here for oxygen pre and post-op. And they may not be aware of EWOT. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, absolutely. Most people find us when they're looking for HBOT, hyperbaric, which they're familiar with. And then when they get here, we point out the differences. And what I will say with EWOT, you tend to get results very quickly. Now, there might be slightly different results. So if you'd had, I mean, oxygen for things like brain problems, if you've had a concussion or something, getting oxygen into you by any method is good. Sometimes if you're not feeling very energized and you go into the hyperbaric, it's a very gentle way of getting oxygen in, but you are talking probably minimum 10 sessions. So not everybody can afford the time factor which you mentioned. So we can put someone on a treadmill. It doesn't matter what speed they go, it's their comfortable speed. Kind of walking that they walk with a friend or taking the dog out. So everyone has their own level. We've had 90-year-olds on our EWOT, and you put them on the treadmill, and we keep a log of what the incline is, if there's any incline, and the speed. And we got a record for the next time they come. And we usually see an uplift the very next time they come. So let's just say they were doing 3 kilometers an hour. The next time they come, they're at 3.5. You can get that sense of confidence that you're actually doing something for yourself that's actually making a measurable difference. And how exciting is that?
Very exciting, because it's about hope. And we understand a lot of people that stay sick or don't get well or struggle to get well, it's because of the limiting beliefs that we're holding in the subconscious. And you know, you can't separate the physical and the emotional. It's one thing is dictating to the other. So if you don't feel well, it's very difficult to be optimistic and hopeful. And if you're if you're feeling really low emotionally, the body feels tired. You to motivate yourself to do stuff. So that's a really exciting part of it for me. So is there anything else that we've missed?
Well, I would like to just say how detoxing all of our biotherapies are. It turns out that the liver is very hungry for oxygen. It's the fuel of the liver for doing, I don't know, hundreds of different enzyme chemical adjustments to detox us. So in the first 5 minutes when you're exercising with oxygen, the liver is gobbling up a lot of the oxygen. And a lot of people notice a transition where the liver said, okay, I've got what I need. The rest of the body can have a kick at the ball, you know, and that's when the other organs get flooded with this lovely oxygen. And this elderly gentleman I first had the experience with, who came on, who couldn't go a day without having a rest in the middle. He told me after, I think it might have been 4, maybe only 3 sessions, that he'd always had very dark urine and he couldn't clear it no matter how much water he drank. And he said, this morning I woke up, my urine was crystal clear. And I just thought, wow, something is going on here at an elemental level here, in the organs of the body, and everything starts to work better. So sometimes people come off their first session on EWOT or indeed with HBOT, and they say, my brain fog's gone. One woman brought her husband in, and he was hypoxic, low in oxygen, because he had sleep apnea, and he got on. He said, "Oh, I feel pretty good." And she knew him, of course, and she said, "You know what, darling? You've stopped slurring your words." So she picked
Wow.
that up. So how important is that? And other people have
Yeah.
said that their eyesight seems to be more vivid and colors are more vivid, and sometimes their hearing has got better. So it depends how needy you are. The more needy you are, the more of a lift you get from any of these biotherapies. But that is not to say that you couldn't get, anybody can, you have to be unwell to get benefit from these things.
Prevention is better than
Yeah,
cure, for sure.
yeah,
And I think in today's world where people are stressed, we're indoors a lot because obviously we can get oxygen from our trees,
yeah.
but really we need this kind of concentrated effort to help the
A
body
big
to
boost.
heal itself. Yeah, so again, let's just reiterate the time. So the soft shell that you sit in, if you're not very mobile or immobile, takes 90 minutes. The EWAT 20, so quite a big difference here in terms of time. You can benefit from once a week, but in the ideal world, probably 2 to 3 times a week.
Would be better, yes.
Yes.
And you only have to wait. If you were really keen to keep doing it on a very regular basis, you could even do it both of these twice in a day if you allow time between for the body to go back to the normal levels of oxygen in your homeostasis is what's called.
Yes.
So that's good. And then sometimes people want to know, well, how long does all this last? So one of the things with EWAT is that we found early on we would meet somebody who'd been basically sitting in a chair and had no exercise, couldn't exercise, and you'd measure their oxygen levels on their finger and find it was at 99%. And then we thought, well, there's nothing to be done. They've already, but it turns out that what's happening is the red blood cells are loaded with oxygen, but it's going around the system, but it's not dropping the oxygen. It's like a truck picking up a load at a depot, going around the houses, coming back to the depot, still loaded up with its load. So, so what we need is something to help encourage the oxygen to come off. And that encouragement comes from the carbon dioxide, which conveniently is rather acidic in solution in the blood, whereas the oxygen is alkaline in the blood. So it's a perfect switch. So the carbon dioxide jumps on, pushing off the oxygen, because the body does that. And that teaches the red blood cells to pick up and let go. And that effect can last for several weeks. You can measure that. So it's very encouraging.
Because that is something we look at. What would a maintenance package look like? Because obviously it's easy to come here, do a couple of these incredible packages and you will feel better. I mean, we can never guarantee, but we pretty much can guarantee that. And then what do you do when you go back home to maintain that? And we're looking at all the different solutions and different ways that we can get this incredible these therapies out to as many people as possible, because we do understand that we have a real chronic disease situation, and not just in Scotland, but we're focusing in Scotland right now. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for your wealth of information and inspiration around oxygen.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So my